Hello guys, so we are together with another video. So this is going to be interesting. Someone from the channel, Hobbit on the Storm, wanted me to do a video. I'll just actually show it to you. Excuse my poor editing skills. I'll just going to show you the comment. Right? What it says is, hey, can you make a video about what are some good things to do in the beginning of the season, like strategies for making money, maybe buying something early and then selling later for profit, or some other things like that would be very helpful when patch 0.3 hits, right? Okay. So now I do appreciate the sentiment, but I don't think it's actually a good idea. So the thing is, I'm not going to do what he asked me to do, right? And not because I'm malicious or anything. I'm going to do a video on actually not to do that because it's bad, right? So yeah, it's an interesting thing. And obviously, guys, if I had any ideas, I would do them. But I have thought about it, and I think it's pretty bad, right? Let me rephrase that. I think it's bad in the early league. It can be okay in the mid league, right? I mean, we did discuss the situation a little bit with Hobbit. I'm hoping he will also see this video. So then I know we agreed upon doing it mid league could be profitable, but I definitely do not suggest doing it early league. No, let me explain myself to you here, right? I'm getting a little bit dizzy on the raw. Okay, so guys, for example, one of the most famous items is white stellar amulets, right? Because you are going to chance them and you are going to try to arrive at an Astra Mantis, which is pretty valuable. Probably around 100 exalted by now. Divine, of course, that's what I mean. I'm sorry, I never had an Astra Mantis. Take a look. Oh no. Okay, bad ones are about 40, 45. Yeah. 50-ish. Okay, they are not that valuable. 40, 50 divine. So, and as the season progresses, guys, it's not only a very good amulet for the end game, it's also one of the best leveling amulets as well, right? The only contestant is sure-footed sigil, right? I did a video on that. So it's nice to have an Astra Mantis lying around in your collection, so it keeps gaining value, right? And there are of course similar items, but there is one problem. I think I'm getting disoriented by the fella. But would you leave? Thank you very much. I don't know like how he's not able to stand still in one place. He just keeps moving around and gets me dizzy. Off you go. All right. So thing is, guys, let's get into it. So in Path of Exile, right? As expected, there is a lot of inflation. So thing is, items are not worth the same amount of exalteds and divines over time. So guys, let's put it this way. So week one, right? Let's say I buy some white stellar amulets, right? And I sit on them until I sell them at week 6, right? For example. And for the sake of argument, these would be approximate, but I don't think they would be like very wrong, right? Yeah. So let's say like week one white stellar amulets, I'm guessing like 6, 7 exalted maybe, right? And right now I think they are now bordering upon 100 exalted. But thing is, and you would think, oh, that's very nice, right? I'm paying 6, 7 exalted week one, and 5 weeks later I sell them at 100 exalted, huge profit. Actually, you would be losing money, right? Let me get into it. So guys, let's take a look at this. I have divine. I want exalted. Around 370. So thing is, guys, if you calculate the ratio of this currency that you invest to buy one stellar amulet on week one versus now, right? This would be week 6 or so, week 7 or so, right? 4th of April, and we are on the 27th of, yeah, week 7. Week 7, actually a little into week 7, 7.5, something like that, right? So thing is, guys, right now they are about 190 to 100 exalted. So white stellar amulets, for the sake of argument, are about a quarter divine, right? About that level. And thing is, 7 exalted or so on week 1 is again a quarter of divine, right? So you invest some stuff for a quarter of divine, right? And 6 7 weeks later you sell it for a quarter of divine. What? Why? Right? And that currency has been sitting dead in your stash for all that while. And thing is, that is one of the better examples, right? It could have been even worse. For example, let's say you buy sure-footed sigils for like 2 exalted on week 2, right? And now sell them for 10 exalted. Huge loss, right? I mean, it doesn't feel like it. I bought it for 2 exalted, I'm selling it. So the thing is, guys, the 2 exalted on week 1 is nothing like the 2 exalted right now, because everyone is we are practically shedding exalteds. Take a look at mine, right? And I do spend them like mad. I still have 30,500, right? And on week 1 I had maybe 100 exalted. There is a difference, right? Because the more people have their currency, stuff loses value. So buying something earlier on and sitting on it for weeks to sell them at a profit later. I trade a lot, right? But I can't think of a single item that could be profitable, right? I mean, I'm talking about real profitable, right? I mean, you buy it for, as let's say, 0.1 divine, and then you sell it for half a divine, right? That is profit, right? And I could still argue, that level is, I think, fine. But if I buy it for 0.1 and 5 weeks later I sell it for 0.2 divine, I still would argue against that, because you would be keeping those exalteds there dead for weeks and weeks, right? You could trade them, right? And you could make a bigger profit. So I think we have to separate the population into two here, right? People that like to trade and people that don't like to trade. For people that don't like to trade, it's an excellent move, right? I mean, you are gaining more divines for your currency, right? I mean, you just have to make one investment, you sit on it for a month, then you realize your profits, and yeah, nice. But if you like to trade, right, then you are keeping a lot of currency dead there for minimal profit, right? For example, let's say the investment is 5 exalted, right? Instead, you buy something for 5 exalted, you sell them at 6, you halve a little bit, get it to 7, then you do blah blah, right? Already you have surpassed the profit that you were going to make, in a few trades, right? So there is a case that could be made here for sitting out on stuff like that. But guys, so why am I telling you this? In the early league, you have not very much currency to begin with, right? And keeping a lot of currency dead like that, right? It's dead weight, right? For some profit to be realized about a month later on is not worth it. But mid league, it's something else, right? You have a lot of currency, you have a lot you could invest. Take a look at mine. I have 879. So for example, I could do an investment here, right? I can do a 100 divines investment, right? And if I think if I'm going to sell it for 130 2 weeks later, that still gives me pause. By the way, I don't like that too much, right? I can do some other stuff to make more profit, but if I'm going to sell it for 200 1 week later, yeah, that is a good idea, right? So for example, guys, at this level, right, I mean, if the leagues are going to last 12 weeks or thereabouts, we are somewhat past mid-league now. I guess we can be classified as late league. So the thing is, white stellar amulets, that sort of stuff is steadily increasing. So for example, you can just, buy white stellar amulets from people for 80 exalted or lower, right? And wait a few weeks and sell them at 150 exalted. So if the season zero was anything to go by, we are almost reaching out the cap for divine exalted ratio. In the last season, it was steady on 100s for a while, then it climbed to 300s, then it climbed to 400s, then it went mad and climbed to 700s, right? And then it fell, right? Down to 400s or so. And if you have taken a look, right now it's about 200s, right? In standard. Why? Because there are not too many people that are playing, right? So you do not really get as many exalted as you used to do, right? So therefore, but there are a lot of divines already out there. So yeah, the ratio has actually gone up to about 200, right? So one divine is only about 200 exalted in standard, but in here we are about at 400. It will increase a little bit more maybe, but I'm expecting it to go down to around this level at the end. So yeah, I mean, at this point you can invest safely, right? You can get yourself some stellar amulets. uh, so the leveling stuff is pretty good, right? So for example, guys, there is a pretty famous leveling body armor called um, Fox Shade, I believe it's called, that gives 10% movement speed. A chest giving movement speed is pretty rare. So for example, this also sells, you could buy these, but these are also pretty common, right? You won't be able to make a huge profit on it, but these would always sell about 5 to 10 exalted, right? You could get your hands on them for one exalted and sit on them. But thing is, you don't have to sit on them. This is not an investment, I don't think you have to sit on, right? You can just put it up for 10 exalted and wait. At this point, one of the best examples would be, as I said, white stellar amulets. They are constantly increasing. You can buy them and sell them at a profit about 2 weeks later. But I don't want to be objecting through the whole video. There is actually one way of getting some items and selling them at a profit and relatively quickly on, right? That is following the famous fellas, right? Famous content creators around here and hoard their key items for their builds before anyone else gets wind of it, right? Or at the same time with almost So for example, guys, let's say Fabgan is playing some, I don't know, warrior. He's using Chernobox pillar, right? Whatever it is, right? And you get a few of those. So that's very expensive. It's not a good idea. But let's say, for example, you are following Fabgan. He's doing a lightning spear, Deadeye, and he's getting Tangle Tongue. And if you notice it just then, and buy as many tangle tongues as you can with high crit rate, right? You sit on it for 2 weeks and you are going to make insane amounts of profit, right? So for example, right now, let me show you guys. 24% or so is the cap for critical hit chance that you can get on tangle tongue. I'm talking about this one here. This one goes up to like 24% with corruption. So this one is worth about 40 divine. Imagine, you get this at like one divine or so. I don't know how much it was worth before it was, it skyrocketed, but one divine, two divine, imagine you get like 20, 30 of these, you sit on it for a few days and bang, right? So, that kind of, invest on an item, sit on it for a few days and then sell at a huge profit. This is the only way, as far as I can tell, to do it, right? Follow Ben, I don't know, Fobgun, whoever it is, right? The famous fellow's Queen. I don't think he's getting, a lot of builds done, but yeah. And so, for example, you see a new build, right? And immediately you start hoarding the stuff, right? And thing is, you can buy as many as you can, right? This is not an investment that can go wrong, right? I mean, of course, watch the build. If it's really feeling good, right? And Lightning Spear will feel good because it's the best build, right? Then you hoard yourself Tangle Tanks and wait as much as you like and then bang, right? Or Sacred Flame also goes, right? Sacred Flames are 20 25 divine. Imagine buying lots of sacred flames as well. So that is a nice way of making profit. And that's on a short time scale. The profit ratio is very high. It's beautiful, right? But I just don't follow the strategy, right? What I can give you as an advice, right? It's a good strategy to follow. So yeah, I think that would be the best method of actually achieving that. Follow the famous streamers, YouTubers, whoever is content creators. If they have a nice build going with some somewhat unknown items, bang, get as many as you can, and wait for 1 week for people to realize that, and then sell them at a huge profit. And yeah, that would be about the size of it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.